Hello, everyone, and welcome to our partner webinar today. This session is being sponsored by Ananta Tech. I'm David with Spiceworks, and I'll be your moderator for today. This session will be discussing driving SMB growth through cloud adoption. Before we get started, I'll cover a few reminders about our console. This session is being recorded, so if you step away or miss any portion of today's presentation, you will receive a link to view it on demand. Also, Ananta has provided additional resources in the handout section, so take a look there to get that. We also invite you to submit your questions for a live Q&A. You can do that using the window located underneath the slides. We'll see those questions queue up on our side and get to as many as we can before we're done. And if we don't get to your question, we will follow up with you after today. Finally, I want to invite everyone to the attendee chat. You can bring that up using the chat icon located at the bottom of your screen and jump in to have a conversation with your fellow attendees. A reminder that our chat does follow our Spiceworks community guidelines, so please keep chat fun and professional. With that, I'll introduce our speakers for today. We have joining us Vinod Jayachandran, Chief Technology Officer at Ananta. He has over 2 decades of experience in developing industry-leading products in the area of network management, design and optimization, and cloud infrastructure orchestration. We also have joining us Ashish Bambru, Senior Vice President at GM at Ananta Tech, where he leads Desktop Ready. He brings over 20 years of experience as an entrepreneur and executive in software and cloud businesses. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Ashish, to get things started.
Hey, thank you so much, David, and very happy to be here with you guys. Good morning, good evening, or good early evening, wherever you are, in whichever time zone you are. The topic of today is a great one, and we all know that the small and medium businesses in our country are the backbone of our economy. And significant challenges and stresses have been put on this segment of our business and our economy. And technology has come up as a key way in which these small and medium businesses can really adapt to the changing times and position themselves to tide over these tough times, and more importantly, set themselves up for success in the future. So we're going to be talking today about how the pandemic impacted the SMB market, what available technologies are there to support them through this time. And then towards the end, we're going to be talking about one of those technology areas, i.e. cloud desktops, that Desktop Ready has a solution for. And we will go deeper into that aspect of helping SMBs in the migration to cloud. But let's start with a little background. We all know we are in unprecedented times. In spring of this year, we were hit with COVID-19, a true black swan event that nobody could have predicted. And when it came, it kind of shook the whole business, political and, consumer, mindset in terms of how do we navigate through this unprecedented, crisis. The first reaction was to follow what healthcare professionals, suggested and recommended we do: show social distancing, proper sanitization. Some authorities worldwide instituted lockdowns to ensure that the spread of the virus is contained. And the lockdowns are good from a containing the virus perspective, but they had severe impact, negative impacts on SMBs in terms of being able to operate, in terms of being able to serve their customers. And so the whole business continuity of this important segment of our economy became became questionable. Not to talk about the fact that people stopped going to offices, people stopped traveling, and overall disruptions in the way we knew the world for almost 100 years. Um, and so after the initial, follow the hygiene, make sure that the employees are safe, when that phase, was completed, then the SMBs, started thinking about, okay, how do I ensure business continuity in this time? And and what they did is they basically adopted whatever was available as a short-term fix. They had some available legacy technologies, maybe remote calling in using a VPN or whatever was suggested to them by their in-house IT or some trusted IT advisors. They just kind of took a more immediate short-term fix in order to just kind of create a semblance of normalcy. And we were all expecting that this is going to last a very short period of time, and like we have in the past, we will conquer it very, very quickly. But turned out that this problem was here to stay, at least for a few more months. So that pointed to the need to a more longer term solution to how to serve remote employees, how to empower a distributed workforce. But we can't put all of the trend to remote worker aspect in the lap of coronavirus. Let's recognize that this is a trend that has been in the making for a very long time, probably over the last 10 years. It started slowly, but had been gaining momentum over a period of time, primarily catalyzed by adoption of technology. Even before COVID, close to over a billion workers globally were, either working or expected to work remote or distributed in some form or shape. The cloud desktop or digital workspaces market was small but growing rapidly, close to about 100%. With about over $100 billion in revenue expected in 2020. And the whole migration to the cloud, which again has been there in the making over the last, at least for the last 5 years, in a significant way. That trend also saw a boost, an impetus based on COVID, and over the last 2 to 3 years, over 12% cumulative growth rate of this market based on some research. SMBs in particular have been, relative to their enterprise brethren, a little lagging in adoption of new technologies. They, by just nature of an SMB, are more focused on kind of immediate day-to-day operations. Cash flows are more challenging, and they don't have at times deep access to liquidity like enterprises have, either through stock markets or through debt financing, to be able to really look into the future. So SMBs, more working capital based, more kind of immediate month to month, quarter to quarter visibility. So they've lagged IT adoption to a certain extent. And the case in point is retailers. A lot of retailers were caught off guard with COVID, and they had ample opportunity over the last 10 years to have a good e-commerce strategy to combat and position themselves with the inevitable change in the buying behavior from brick and mortar to online. But some of them, took their time, were slow, and frankly and unfortunately paid the price when COVID hit. So the SMB market really this time, looked at IT as a key priority. It kind of brought IT front and center. Various research agencies and houses have come up with studies, in the middle of this year, talking to small and medium businesses about their propensity for IT investment and what's holding them back and stuff like that. And by the way, we at Atenta also conducted a similar study, and I'll share more details in the following slides. But this is just a cross section of some of the the industry research that has been done, big numbers, over half of the SMBs are thinking about increasing their investments in IT. And, a lot of them are just kind of looking at, using managed services to really get ahead of the IT deployment, which is that they recognize that they may not have enough IT expertise in-house, and therefore the need to look outside for help. And all of this, just has created a good platform for adoption of DaaS, which is desktop as a service. Basically, the conventional laptop or whatever end device that you have, which is having all the applications locally on that device, which is the way it was for decades. To see a change in that environment from being, everything is on that laptop to having all the applications and data in the cloud that can be accessed from anywhere, from any device. The pandemic specifically had an impact on how people look at work from home. We're all working from home right now, right? But I don't think many of us ever thought that our kind of work was suited to work from home environment. Maybe because we thought that the work couldn't be done without us being in proximity to our coworkers, or the technology wasn't there, or some other reasons. Well, COVID proved a lot of those things, or a lot of those assumptions wrong. After the first quarter or so of just kind of trying to navigate and trying to figure it out, we all know that, while the times have been tough, but by and large, businesses have been able to kind of find out a way to continue operations primarily through use of technology. So, before and after, like close to 70% of the people would say, hey, I would never work remote. I just don't see myself doing that. I just don't see my type of industry, my type of use cases ever to be remote. Well, after the pandemic, 23%, that's dropped down to under 25%. So big jump in how people are viewing work from home, and the pandemic is going to go, and the vaccine is doing the rounds right now, and we are confident that in about 3 to 6 months we are going to get back to where things were before the pandemic. But there are going to be some residual changes in how we are looking at our work life, and so that's something that we have to keep into account. But not only was it evident that people can continue to work from home, surprisingly, people felt that being remote actually helped them being more productive. Well, this was a little counterintuitive, especially for people who were initially not looking at work from home as a durable solution. Some of the research that Gartner came out with found that close to 50% of the people are saying, you know what, I actually was more productive and had higher discretionary effort that I can put towards my work. And my contribution increased, when I was remote. So all of these things have created this sense of trust and confidence in this new way of working, where we would have a distributed workforce that can work from anywhere, that spans geos, that spans boundaries, and provided they have a good broadband connection, and provided that they have the right skills and experience, they can work from anywhere and be productive for their employers. Well, we've made the case that the pandemic has opened up new possibilities in terms of how workforce views their work life. But the question is remote work for everybody? And after the pandemic is over, are people going to continue doing things from work from home like the way they did during the pandemic? I think the short answer to the question is probably no, because we have to think strategically if a distributed workforce and a remote work environment makes sense for that vertical. Certain verticals, certain use cases may not be good fits. So it's important that we ask ourselves as businesses that, hey, is remote work a possible in my organization? And are there use cases that are well served in a distributed workforce environment? And can therefore a remote environment be a longer term solution for us as a company, whether it is for the whole company, for your group, for your specific use case? And if the answer to those questions is yes, then the need for a more longer term, durable, stable and scalable desktop as a service solution is probably something that those businesses would need. I talked about the research that Ananta did. Ananta, as a parent company, our employer, has deep expertise in understanding and delivering on the needs of virtual desktops. And we've been doing this when virtual desktops was not really as well known. About 10 years of experience. We've taken close to 500,000 desktops from on-premise to virtual. And so, day in and day out, we work with these businesses, we work with these workers and employees, and we hear what feedback they have, we hear what challenges and concerns they have, and our business is built on solving those. But in November, we actually went ahead and said, okay, our point of view is very focused on the larger enterprises. We wanted to go out and also get input from an SMB perspective, going to a slightly smaller, employee size from, thousands of employees down to, let's say, about 500 to 500 employees plus minus. And we wanted to ask them about what was important for them in this new reality. And we got a lot of input, but I wanted to share with you 4 key themes that stood out in terms of what those SMB business leaders and IT leaders were thinking and what was important for them when they were thinking about empowering their workforce in a distributed remote environment. First and foremost, and no surprise, security. They all wanted to ensure that the data, that they are, that's their biggest asset now as a company, is secure. They wanted to ensure that they were not susceptible to attacks like malwares. They wanted to ensure that they had more flexibility and control, and only give their employees access to the level of data and applications that was required for them to run their job, so that they could, in the case of a situation turning bad, where an employee basically is, wanted to go to competition, for example, and, uses the last few days to just kind of take out all the company secrets. They wanted to prevent those kind of things by having that level of control. Productivity increase. For businesses of any size, the employee cost is such a big, driver of their success. So every hour of work not done, every hour of time spent in just trying to figure out and navigate complex IT is a waste. And so they are very aware of the fact that IT is the best path to them to drive increased employee productivity and loss of downtime. And so that was important for them. The other thing was about accommodating employees that were good, capable, and willing to work at the right price for them, but were not able to be in the same office. So being able to accommodate the needs of those remote workers, whether they come with their own devices, whether they come in a geographical location, or they come in a different time zone, they wanted to be able to provide that flexibility and that accommodation to embrace those employees. And last but not the least, they have seen the painful impact of disruption in business. It's so difficult to maintain a stream of customers that knock on your doors. And one bad event that creates a disruption and those customers don't find the doors of the business open, it can be detrimental to the health of the business. Those customers may never come back. So they've seen how important business continuity is. Although they are small, they don't have those big resources like an IT department in large enterprise, but the needs are no less mission critical in SMB. They wanted to ensure that their business never got disrupted, whether it's a disaster or some health related issue. They wanted to stay on top of that. So those were some of the high level considerations that came up. So if we kind of just summarize all what I just said and say, okay, well, COVID happened, remote workplace and distributed workplace trend was already there. Businesses became more savvy in embracing and recognizing that they need to change the way they were thinking about IT and embrace IT more, migrate to cloud more. Well, if there's a check mark on all of those things, and the central to that cloud migration is adoption of cloud desktops. So if that's the way they need to go, what are the key attributes of that good cloud desktop solution? So there are 7 things that we believe are important. And we talked about and touched on some of these already, so I'll not spend too much time. But it's important that it enables work from home. More and very important, especially for SMBs, it enables bring your own device. Sometimes it could be a seasonal business, and all you do is basically you say, hey, you don't need to get anything else other than any device that has a browser connection, and you are up and running. They didn't want to compromise on the experience that their employees would have, whether they are in office or remote. So the same Windows, PowerPoint experience, the same latency, the same performance, all of that they wanted to preserve as much as possible. Security, creating layers of security so that people have access to only at the application and data level and not be able to go rogue. Cost effective, many hidden costs in the legacy model. There are many costs that are not quantifiable immediately, but businesses pay those costs by not having the right solution. So total cost of ownership, very important. In certain industries, there are compliance requirements. Data can't go outside a certain area. Data needs to be preserved. Some guidelines need to be followed, and all of that stuff, whether you are in healthcare or financials or government or other industries. So those kind of requirements needed to be followed. Scalability, both going up and going down, being able to onboard a lot of new employees, onboard a new company that they may acquire, downsize quickly to be able to turn off what is available to a certain part of their employee workforce. All of those aspects of scalability and flexibility very important. And last but not the least, central management. This is a big cost line item for them to be able to go and fix desktop by desktop, to be able to send patches, make updates on a per endpoint basis is just too much of a hassle, too much areas of things going wrong and cost. And to be able to manage all of that in one central location is huge, for these small businesses. And if we look at it from the perspective of what industries and what use cases are the most suitable for desktop cloud desktops, then a few themes come up. Security and regulation, healthcare, government, finance, elastic workforce. If you have the short-term employees that are coming in and out, contractors or other partners, for example, freelancers that you want to enable to get your job done, very, very good use case for remote desktops. Certain employees, whether it is call centers or mobile field employees, also are very well suited for remote desktops. In certain cases, the field may not have opportunity to carry the big device. They may be accessing all of the company resources through a handheld device. So that's a very good use case for remote desktops. Specialized workloads, you could have your developers or your designers really needing a very high throughput compute infrastructure, but they may not need that for all the time. They may just have a burstable use of those high throughput resources. Again, very good work, very good use case for remote desktops, where you're just subscribing the infrastructure as you need it without making any upfront investment. And business continuity, ensuring that those things stay, business is open, and even if there are disruptions that happen down the line, the employees are able to keep the lights on by working anytime through any of their devices, any of their available devices. That brings us to the introduction of desktop ready. What I just explained to you was some of the changes that have occurred in the industry and the need for cloud desktops. And in the next section, we're going to be talking about how desktop ready is delivering on that promise of remote desktops, cloud desktops, and how we really take the next step of actually bringing this new technology to the SMBs for easy adoption and as a catalyst to their growth. And for that, I would like to invite our CTO, Vinod Jayachandran. Vinod?
Hey, thanks, Ashish, and hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. I see a lot of chat around the snowstorm, so some of you look like you're on the Northeast, getting ready for the snow, or probably already on its way. I'm sitting outside DC here. I think we just passed us, so up north of us, you guys might be seeing it pretty soon. But anyway, let's get down to desktop ready. Ashish gave a pretty good overview there on what we're seeing with respect to desktops, cloud desktops, specifically remote work. And in general, cloud adoption, like where we are in with respect to remote working has made cloud adoption. A lot of people think about cloud adoption, especially in the SMB space. And if you guys haven't already thought about before, certainly this would have brought at least some discussion in your organizations about how to move to cloud. And the key thing that we wanted to talk about is using cloud desktops to enable your employees. Ashish touched upon the security element of it. You need, this is a distributed workforce. So, and generally, if you see, a lot of people now think this is sort of a precursor for how the workforce is going to look like, or how a working environment is going to look like, maybe even going forward. That a lot of us will be fairly distributed. The role of a central office might be a little diminished, even if we come back from the pandemic rules and quarantines. So a distributed workforce is definitely becoming a mainstream here. So as part of that, security is important when you enable your workers to be employees to be working from anywhere. Security is important on how to control that data that you have for your company. As well as, but at the same time, provide the flexibility for them to be working the way that they need to work, have the access to all the software they need, have access to the file shares that they need, and all of that. And while doing all of that, you need, as IT leaders and business owners, you need simplicity in managing all of that as well. You shouldn't have to have specialized training or specialized people and skills for each of those different areas. So, which is where we really we're going with desktop ready, is bringing that security, bringing that scalability, as well as the simplicity, all while abstracting a lot of what's happening in the underlying layers. And a lot of it will become evident as we go through the demo. So I'm not planning to spend a whole lot of time on slides here. So we should quickly go to a demo. But just to set the context, the way we look at it is how to go to cloud, especially from a desktop workload perspective, we look at sort of three separate stages. First is you're identifying your users and use cases. Okay, who are these users or use cases that are best suited to move to cloud-based desktops? Ashish outlined in the last slide before we went to desktop ready of the various use cases that our customers use today. Whether it is temporary workers or specialized machine needs, or it is primarily for your disaster recovery. Identify those use cases. And once you have, then you have a general sense of, okay, how many of these users do we have now to move to the desktop ready or the cloud desktop environment? And based on that, there are a couple of ways that you can look at using desktop ready to help you with that migration or help you getting started. You don't have to always migrate, right? You can start your new employees or new workers in a cloud-based desktop environment. So in that context, you can start with some of the smaller numbers based on how big you are. We have law firms that are one or two people who are using the solution, as well as businesses that have at least 5 to 10 people who are using the solutions as well, and going all the way north to about 2,000 to 3,000. So it's a lot of different type of use cases that can use the plans. So what I'm going to do now is from here on out is basically share my screen and walk through what that process looks like in terms of purchasing or starting with your desktop ready experience. All right, so you just basically go to desktopready.com. You will see, and if you guys don't see a screen share, just throw it out on the chat. But you should all be seeing a screen with desktop ready and with the plans listed there. And I'll navigate through the screen here. And so you basically pick which choice of plan there is. And obviously a business plan is for, if you're having at least 5 people, then that's your best choice. You get 24/7 support. We can migrate you over from existing users. You get a monitoring and a usage analytics and reports, free support for installing custom applications and anything you want on your images. So a lot comes with it on the business plan. If you and it's ideal for even if you have 5 people there. So based on choices you have and based on the users you have, let's say you have you select the workload that you want to put on these into your account. The way we've organized this is based on workload and use cases. There is a continuum of desktops that is going to be available to you to choose from, starting from, hey, I have just a bunch of light workers. They're using a single browser-based application, nothing else. That's all they're going to be using it for. And so maybe light desktop is the best choice for you. For those kind of users. Or you have a few developers, they're going to be on Zoom and other type of video conferencing applications. In that case, so maybe it is a desktop. So and you can also pick and choose a combination as well. I can choose 3 light desktops, 3 heavy desktops, and I can also choose personal desktops. So these are completely your own machines where you're not sharing any resources with anybody else. So it's purpose built for what you need to do with different specs as well. And so maybe you can choose a bunch of those as well. And these are, again, like I said, this is a continuum based on the workload. But at any point, if you need additional storage, or if you need, hey, I need 4 CPU, but I need 32 GB RAM because of the use case that I have or the workload that I'm going to run, any of that option, just contact us, and we'll be able to build one up for you that you can put into your account. So once you have selected all of that, you can choose the number of Office licenses you want as well, or if you already have Office licenses, you can integrate that into the desktops that you're going to purchase. So let me go next. So essentially, at that point, you've done selecting the desktops and the configurations that you want for these various desktops. If you're familiar with the terminology a little bit, there's a cloud infrastructure layer. The cloud infrastructure layer where we'll be building all of that is Microsoft Azure. So Azure in and of itself is completely SOC, PCI, and HIPAA compliant. And on top of that, there's a control plane that is a WVD Windows Virtual Desktop based control plane, which is also got compliance for all the security policies. And that essentially sort of allows you to broker users between the various desktops that you have. So in and of itself, it's a very secure and a private space. You can think of it as a private space that is being built for all your workload, specifically desktop-like workload. Now, there are options for you to add on if you want to move some of your application servers here. There are options to move them as well into this specific workspace, but this essentially is your infrastructure composition for that workspace, and you can add your additional servers as well into it if that is something that you wish to do, just to keep your applications, if there is an application that you keep co-located with the workload. If you want to connect to that application that might be sitting in a data center, that is possible as well. So once that is done, you've selected all of that. It's essentially an automated provisioning process. Once you complete it here, or you go through one of our salespeople to have that completed for you, it'll be an automated provisioning process. And these desktops usually get provisioned within an hour. Sometimes it usually takes about 30 minutes, but definitely within an hour you should get your desktops provisioned for the workload. And once the provisioning is complete, what you will get is essentially an access as an IT leader. What you will get is admin workspace that tells you what the desktops you have, and other information about the licenses you have, overall health score about the infrastructure, because this includes everything that is under your infrastructure, your Active Directory servers, file servers, if there are any additional database or service, any of that, they all get listed here as well, and provide a health score for you. So at this point, now you can start adding users. Right, you can, let's say you brought it for like 10 users, 20 users, whatever it is. You can upload a list of users, or you can add a user into the list and type in whatever information, company information you have for them. And that will get added, and those users will get added to the list of users that's available in the system. So a user addition usually takes anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes, because that is in the Azure parlance, it has to get added to the Active Directory. There is a little bit of a sync process that needs to happen, so that happens. But once that user is added, again, the admin will get an email, and now you can add desktops, assign desktops to that user. The user essentially, based on whatever desktops you have available, you can add, let's say I want to add a desktop to a specific user. I locate that user in there, and add a desktop, assign also Office 365 or Microsoft 365 license, and then do assign. Once the assign is complete, basically that user assignment process starts, which means a desktop gets assigned to that user ID. Microsoft applications get enabled for that user, and then that user gets an email that they've been assigned a specific desktop for their use. Once that email goes, they're basically set up for it. And at the same time, you can also disable or remove assignments from users if a user if you are turning off access to a specific user for whatever reason. It's simple as just turn off all access to them right here. And that's it. And once that process is complete, and again, with anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes, that user will be deactivated, which means that user won't be able to log in anymore either. So essentially, your whole process of just think about it, right? If you had provided, let's say, a laptop to that user, a remote user, you had shipped a laptop. And they were all working on that laptop. Now that user permission needs to be revoked. Not very easy to quickly remove access to what they need to work on or quickly remove access to data. But here it's fairly easy for you to just remove access to them and complete that process. And so in short, that gives you a sense of how you can manage the users. And then once that is done, they can access their desktops. It's a fairly, again, straightforward process for them to access a desktop is by going through their, they'll have a sign-in for it that'll be available. And then they can go in and access the desktop from their sign-in process as well. Desktop will, I'm trying to bring that up here, but a desktop will essentially look at that point similar to what they will see on their local environment, which will have the applications that they need to get access to. Or if you want to add any other application, then you can that'll be available in their desktop as well. So the look and feel of the desktop will essentially be the same as any near desktop as well. So with that, let me take control here back to the slides. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and add that to the chat window, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. We just walk through it. So, David, at this point, are there any questions? Let's give some time for the question, and we can come back and wrap that up as well.
Thank you, Vinod. Yes, we've got some questions that we've received, and a reminder to our audience to please continue to submit those, and we'll get to as many as we can. So let's look at this first question from George. My clients are architects and engineers who require medium to high levels of processing and or GPU. Have you worked with applications like Autodesk specifically Revit?
Yeah, good, great question. Thanks for that. Yeah, so we have done applications that require GPU, specifically design applications. We actually have a whole company of users who does nothing but applications, Autodesk-like application, CAD/CAM applications. And we have priced GPU-based desktop for them as well, configured GPU-based desktops for them for that purpose. Yeah, GPU is not something that we get asked very commonly, but it is a use case, which is why you don't see it on the list of options available. But it is something that we do provision for our users as well. So that is a very relevant use case and something that we've set up for our customers for the through the desktop ready environment. The only thing that usually is for Autodesk and applications like that, it's definitely something we worked with. But there are if there are other applications, the only thing that I always tell customers or those who want to use it is to make sure that you have the licensing covered, because the licensing for certain applications might be different. Licensing terms might be different when it comes to running on remote desktops.
All right, this next question, we've got a couple of questions around this. I have a small business. How do I set up a digital office and enable remote working?
Sure. Ashish, you want to take that one?
Yeah. I think when we say a digital office, it's basically, you create a cloud enabled digital workspace for them. So, one way is that you, rather than having the employees have their endpoints be pre-installed with the operating system applications and all the things that they need. You basically have all of your company applications and the requirements created in one central place. We call that a golden image, or it's basically the image of all the apps that you need. And you could have multiple apps or multiple images based on different needs that certain divisions within your company has, which is totally fine. So what you do is you basically create that image of all the apps, and you create that in the cloud through a service like Desktop Ready, and then you basically provide your employees a means to, through a browser or through a downloaded client, but preferably just to keep it simple, through a browser, to access that image which is out in the cloud. And now what you've done is you basically created an environment where those employees are not really connecting to the company applications and data through their local device. They're connecting through their local device only in the sense that they're using that as a gateway to the central reservoir of information and applications that is out in the cloud, and that enables all the centralized IT management and streamlined upscaling, downscaling, and that kind of stuff. So those are some of the ways in which you can set up a digital workplace for your employees.
Okay, we can get a couple of more in. This kind of stays with you, Ashish. What differentiates Desktop Ready from other available options?
So cloud desktops or remote desktops or virtual desktops, whatever you call them, they are not necessarily new. They have been there for a while and have been used in some specialized needs here and there. What sets Desktop Ready from competition or what's available right now is a few things. First of all, rather than trying to use a legacy mindset, a legacy process, and a legacy technology stack to deliver the needs of a remote workforce, rather than doing that, we are actually taking a fresh approach. We are adopting WVD, which is Windows Virtual Desktop. It's the latest Windows virtual technology that Microsoft has come out with as early as about a year ago. That's one. Secondly, we're using the public cloud infrastructure, i.e. Azure in this case, which ensures that all the stringent compliance requirements, latest technologies, scaling and up and down, all of those things, because it's part of a bigger, larger public cloud infrastructure, is already taken care of, versus having a private data center where you may be constrained with having all that you need. So that's kind of one. The second area where we we differentiate is we provide a truly fully managed desktop. So what do we mean by that? Well, there are various technologies or solutions available in the market that you can, as a small business or medium business, you can actually use those to craft or stitch together a digital workplace technology solution for you. But that requires some knowledge of what those various pieces are. You need some resources and some expertise to put it together. In the case of desktop ready, we really want to make it a low touch or zero touch, which is it doesn't matter whether you have any in-house expertise or not. We're going to take care of the whole process of migrating you from conventional legacy on-premise desktops to the cloud, whether it is design, whether it is migration from old to new, whether it is the initial deployment and implementation, whether it is ongoing management or specific help desk needs. We're going to be there for you end to end, and that's a game changer because we don't have that breadth of end-to-end solutions in the market. So that's kind of the second way we differentiate. And the third is we have a truly transparent price. You go to our website and you see what the per desktop price is going to be on a per month basis. There is no annual commitment. You can start anytime, and we are able to basically spin up those desktops for you. And if they don't work for you or you want some change, there is no locking you down into something that doesn't work for you. And I would also add, last but not the least, the fact that we have done a really good job in abstracting a lot of the various difficult technology terms and complex, new ways of doing business into something which is consumable, understandable, and referenceable. So, all of those things are helping Desktop Ready to really democratize the use of cloud desktops, take it away from just being something that only large enterprises can use because they have knowledge of how to do it, and taking it down to the mainstream market.
All right.
Yeah, David. So hopefully, and the way Ashish outlined it captured all the key differences, and hopefully it's clear in how we're differentiating ourselves. And people who are familiar with remote desktops, especially cloud desktops or even VDI, would probably know that there are technologies available, and it's been around for at least maybe a little less than a decade now. But the amount of effort that it takes to properly craft the solution that is needed for the use cases, manage the infrastructure layer, manage the workspace layer, and then manage the desktops on top of it, including patching for security updates and all those different requirements. There is a lot more that goes underneath it that gets abstracted in this whole process, where you just simply focus on, hey, I want these type of users to get certain type of desktops, and this is it. You go pick, choose, and everything underneath this is gets baked in and provided for you. So that's some of one of the key differences there, which and along with the transparent pricing and all that support with Desktop Ready.
Great. Yeah, and we had some questions around the pricing, so that takes care of that. So looks like we got a follow-up question from George, and I think we can get one more in here. Would users be able to use multiple monitors?
Yeah, so that seems to be one of the popular questions that we get. Yes, we've tested. Definitely, we have tested or have two monitors. Customers have two monitors. I believe we have tested in one case at least 3 monitors. So multiple monitors is something that we support. 2 monitors is off the shelf. I believe we've extended to 3 monitors as well in some use cases.
All right. Well, thank you, Vinod and Ashish, for going through the questions. I think that's about our time for today. I want to thank Ananta for sponsoring this great event today, and want to thank everyone for attending and taking time out of your busy day to be in this presentation. A few reminders before we wrap up. We are posting the winner of our prize in the attendee chat, so congrats to our winner there. We'll follow up with you in the community for next steps on that. And again, before we close out, we do have the additional information that Ananta has provided. So take a look at the handout section. With that, I want to thank everyone for attending. We look forward to the next partner webinar with all of you soon. So until then, stay safe and keep it spicy. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Thanks all. Bye-bye. Stay warm.